Thank you, Presiding Officer. I would like to start by welcoming the debate brought forward by the Scottish Conservatives this afternoon. I would say at the outset that in moving our amendment that we can support the Government amendment on the basis of it recognising the challenges we face and we must work together on, but that will not deter us from raising those challenges in this debate, and I know Liz Smith has raised a number of challenges for the Government this afternoon. Addressing the educational attainment gap and educational inequality is one of the biggest issues facing this Parliament and this country. This is an opportunity for us to put forward suggestions as well as scrutinising the statistics, the research and also the Government's record since 2007. But before proposing the solutions, we need to analyse and identify the problems, because there is a huge amount of work to be done to address the attainment gap in our education system and the inequality that it creates. As Liz Smith said, the statistics show there has been a small reduction in the attainment gap of pupils from the least and most deprived areas, but none of us can claim that there has been a significant or meaningful reduction in that gap. There is still a substantial attainment gap between pupils in terms of average tariff score, positive follow-up destinations and in literacy and numeracy levels. Scottish Labour agrees that there needs to be a focus on the early years and on literacy and numeracy. We believe that it is something that all parties should prioritise and that all parents can support. The 2013 Scottish Survey of Literacy and Numeracy showed that there is a substantial gap when it comes to literacy, and the most recent 2014 reports focused on numeracy worryingly highlighted that numeracy rates were lower than compared to 2011 for primary 4 and primary 7 pupils. However, the inequality of opportunity is no more demonstrated than when it comes to statistics relating to looked after children. Most recent Government research showed only 2% of looked after children initially went to university, compared to 36% of all school leavers. I do not pretend this is an easy problem to fix. Improvements to aftercare support were made in the Children and Young People Bill, but we also need to improve the standards of support that looked after children can expect during their school education.
John Mason.
I thank the member for giving way. I'm interested in his point about looked after children. I mean, I wonder if you would agree with me that that suggests that there's a lot of problems out with the schools that are coming into the schools that the schools need to deal with, rather than are necessarily being caused by the schools, as the Conservatives seem to suggest.
Neil Bibby.
Well, I think it's a mixture of both. I would definitely accept your point there. And for our part, the Scottish Labour Party is developing a strategy to deal with the attainment gap that includes reducing the gap before children start school through provision, increasing and improved preschool provision, removing barriers to young people's opportunities and learning at school, and supporting families directly through initiatives like family centres. In May this year, Scottish Labour published our Mind the Gap challenge paper, which set out 12 policy priorities in this area, including focusing on crucial early years of a child's life, building relationships between families, schools and communities, expanding wraparound care and removing barriers to inclusion such as the cost of school trips and after-school activities. The early years is a key focus of our work, but we also need to examine if our primary and secondary school education system is well enough equipped and resourced to face that huge challenge of closing the attainment gap. Despite the hard work and professional commitment of teachers, parents and pupils, the Scottish education system is being stretched, and that is through no fault of teachers, parents and pupils. But we all know teachers in Scotland are facing significant workload issues at this moment in time, and surveys by teaching unions indicate the Government is failing to address those workload issues. Not only are teachers still teaching new courses and preparing pupils for new exams, there are also far fewer teachers in our classrooms. How can we seriously reduce the attainment gap given these circumstances? Since 2007, under this SNP government, we have seen a cut of over nearly 4,000 teachers. And this matters because teachers and parents regularly tell me and others that they feel more time teachers can spend individually with pupils, the better. At the Education Committee recently, the Cabinet Secretary, in response to teaching unions' concerns, said, "As for teacher numbers, I am very keen to maintain and, if possible, to expand them." Yet just 2 days later in the budget, there was no mention from John Swinney in his statements of resources for maintaining, let alone increasing, teacher numbers, and I hope this will soon be addressed. The number of teachers is one issue, but the issue of inequalities is also linked to the increased reliance on private tuition. In March this year, a Hollywood magazine survey exposed that there had been a 300% increase in the use of private tutors in the past year alone, 95% of which come from state schools. Some families worried about their children passing their exams were found to be spending £1,900 a year to get an hour a week of extra tuition. Parents have to do what is right for their children, but it is concerning that we are seeing such an increased reliance on private tuition. Families from the most deprived areas can't afford anywhere near £1,900 a year for private tuition. If this trend continues, this is only going to entrench and widen the attainment gap, and I hope the Scottish Government can look at this issue and respond specifically on that point. Another issue of inequality in our present education system that has been highlighted this week, and I'm sorry I've not got time to talk about it, is the issue of charges over exam appeals. The judgment on appeals should be based on the opinion of teachers and relevant teachers and not on the pupils' or schools' ability to pay, and the Scottish Government should urgently review what is happening there. I hope the Minister and Cabinet Secretary will address these issues today. There are, of course, many other challenges which Liz Smith and others will raise, and I hope we will get to discuss them in this debate. I move the amendment in my name.
Thank you very much. Now turn to the open debate. There is no time available.